Today's lesson is going to be on translating sine and cosine functions, and the equations are given here for the general forms. Y equals a sine b of x minus h, close parentheses, plus k. The a would be the amplitude, the b would be the frequency, the h is going to represent the translation horizontally, which would either be left or right, and the k is going to represent the vertical translation, which is either up or down. And similarly, we have y equals a cosine b of x minus h, close parentheses, plus k. The value of k will either indicate up or down. It's going to be up if the k value is greater than 0, and down if the k value is less than 0, which means that it would be negative. And the k, again, controls up and down the vertical change or translation. The value of h indicates a translation either left or right. And left is when the h value is negative, and right is when the h value is positive. And in regards to the left and right horizontal change, a term called phase shift is sometimes used. And the translations left and right are a little counterintuitive, because if you start off with the original function y equals cosine of x, and then you're going to look at y equals cosine of x minus pi units. The minus is built into the formula, so the h value is actually positive here, meaning that this is going to the right. And if you have y equals cosine of x plus pi radians, or plus pi units, there's really a double negative that's happening. So it's a double negative, meaning that it's minus a negative h value, which would mean that this is going to the left. The original graph changed horizontally in both of those cases. So if you see x minus a certain value, it's going to the right, but if you see x plus a certain value, it's going to the left. It's a little bit counterintuitive because of that double negative built into the formula. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's look at number 17 here. So the original function would be y equals sine of x, and there's a 2 added on there. Since there's a 2 added on, this is going to be a vertical change, so it's going up 2 units. Number 19. We could rewrite number 19 as y equals cosine of x minus 2, instead of saying negative 2 plus cosine x, which means that they're taking 2 off of it vertically, so it's up, instead of up 2 units, it's going to be down 2 units. Number 20. In 20, inside the parentheses is changing. Whatever the value inside the parentheses is changing, it's a horizontal shift, either left and right. And x is added with pi over 2 radians as the unit. Since there's a value added on, let's go back and remember how when it's added on, it's going to the left because of the double negative that's occurring. So in this case, in number 20, the original graph is going left pi over 2 units. And remembering how pi over 2 is the same as 90 degrees, pi over 2 radians. If we look at number 22, it's the same questions. I just moved it here to get more space. 22. sine, inside parentheses you have x minus pi over 2 radians. Since you're subtracting a value, the original graph is moved to the right pi over 2 units. And then if we look at number 25, the 3 outside is positive, and since it's outside of parentheses, that means that we're going up 3 units. Inside the parentheses, we have x plus 3 pi over 4 radians. We're adding on a value, so we're moving to the left. And that's happening 3 pi over 4 units. So there are both a vertical and a horizontal shift here. Another consideration is that sometimes you're going to be given certain features of a trig graph and you have to write the equation. Here we're told that the amplitude is 3, so we know our a value is 3. We're told that the period is pi. So if we want to have a b value, the frequency, we're going to have to work backwards. We know the formula of a period is 2 pi over b. And they told us that the period was equal to pi. So the period can be replaced with pi. Pi is equal to 2 pi over b. We can put pi over 1, and we can cross multiply. 2 pi times 1 is 2 pi. Pi times b is pi times b. And to get b alone, we're going to have to divide by pi on both sides, meaning that our b value is 2. So they gave us the period was pi, but the frequency is 2. We had to work backwards to figure out what the frequency was. And now we're going to piece together the rest here. We know that we could put y equals, the a value goes in front, it's a cosine function, so the 3 is the a value, the amplitude, it goes in front of the cosine, and then the b value goes in front of x. And now we're also told that there's a phase shift, which is the horizontal change, of pi over 4 radians to the left. Pi over 4 to the left. It's moving to the left, so we're going to be adding on the pi over 4. That's going to be enclosed in parentheses, starting with the 2x plus pi over 4, close parentheses. And then additionally, we're told that there's another translation of a vertical translation of 1 unit up, so at the end we're going to put the plus 1. This entire equation is what you're asked to give. Here's another example of a similar, but now we're dealing with the sine function. There's a phase shift to the right now, 3. There's a period of 5 pi, a vertical translation down 6, and an amplitude of 3. So the amplitude is 3. So we know that we're going to have an amplitude of 3. But let's figure out what the b value would be. Same idea as before. We know that the period is 5 pi, and that's going to be equal to 2 pi over b. Take 5 pi and place it over 1. Cross multiply. 2 pi times 1 is 2 pi. And this is equal to the other cross diagonal. 5 pi times b. To get b alone, we have to divide by 5 pi on both sides. pi is going to cancel with pi, and you're going to be left with 2/5. The frequency can be a fraction. In this case, it is. The b value is 2/5. We also have our translations. The vertical translation is going to come last, and the phase shift is going to go in parentheses, because that's the horizontal change. The phase shift is 3 units to the right. So we're definitely going to have y equals the amplitude in front of the sine function. And then we're going to have our 2/5, the b value in front of x. We're going 3 units to the right. So we're going to take away this time 3. Enclose all that in parentheses. And then down 6 is going to be at the end, so it's going to be subtract 6. That is the equation that we're looking for.